Apologize for the delay. We had a busy work session. It's not totally complete. We may have to have it after we finish the regular meeting. Board members will wait. At this time, we'd like to stand for a moment of silence and we'll ask Dr. Rouse to lead us in prayer.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. People, when you approve the consent agenda, you are approving the agenda for tonight. This time I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda. So moved. Mr. Iverson, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Rouse. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is public comments for agenda items. Remember, we have two different times we have comments. One is for agenda items, one is for non-agenda. I have two people who have signed up for agenda items and one for non-agenda. If anyone else in the audience that wanted to sign up, we have the forms here at the front desk where you can do that. This time, Bob Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Nothing. I don't have much to say other than I hope that all of you have received our letter for an offer to purchase the Colonial Heights Middle School property. I'm fully aware of this board's actions previously to restrict the sale of such property, but I would respectfully ask you to reconsider that position. Our offer stands as presented in the letter that I sent to the board, and we have plans to take that and to continue to use that as a school as early as next fall, not this coming school year, but the following. But be happy to, I know it's not a time for question and answer, but just wanted to let that be known that we are good on our offer of $2 million for the facility and the property.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next, Mike Hale. I think most of you probably got an email last night from part of us did.
I hope that was helpful in some way. Again, just for all assembled, my name is Mike Hale. I'm a lifelong resident of Kingsport. Grew up, Dobbins Bennett High School. Don't hold that against me too much. Some of you from the South and stuff. But I've lived across the street from the Colonial Heights Middle School for 45 years. And you know, with this pending action, a lot of the neighbors, some are here. You know, we've been discussing things, and we've got a lot of concerns about the potential of taking an action to demolition of that school. And so, you know, I sent you, all the board members, a list of questions. I'd like to just highlight those that just, you know, for the gathered here, that, you know, in terms of the neighborhood and community understanding, you know, what is happening, that we just like to understand what the reasons that raising the school building is the best course of action, and what other alternatives to that were evaluated and rejected. Why were they worse or not as good or better than. And, you know, the deed change, you know, why, we'd like to understand how and why that was done. In terms of the financial aspect of it, what is the financial impact to the taxpayers of the county of raising the building for residential versus selling the building as is for that offer that was stated here earlier of $2 million? And then who, if the building is raised, who bears that cost and how much will that be? And then, you know, what does the board expect to sell that property for? Is it cost beneficial, justifiable? And of course, you know, one of the big questions or concerns of the neighbors, some even closer than I am, my next door neighbors right on the street, I'm the next house up, but you know, what is the potential environmental impact to the community, and you know, what plans are in place to control that and make sure that there's no hazard in the community. And in terms of what may be developed there, you know, what type of housing could the developer build? What type of housing is the property zoned for that that developer or builder would be required to follow? And you know, we're concerned that we'd like to have some guarantee that there's not going to be like, you know, multifamily housing is it to possibly could be allowed, you know, for high-rise type in, you know, relationship to this area. But that's one of the big questions we have, and you know, we'd like some kind of a statement of that would not be possible in the event that the property's developed. So we are, this neighborhood, all the people that we talked with are very favorable toward, you know, the offer from Lifeway. We think, you know, a Christian school would be a wonderful enhancement to our community. And, you know, just knowing a little bit, no more than I know very little, but in terms of how they build their facilities and what they would commit to, but I just believe it would be the best it's ever been. I can't see investing that kind of money and not, you know, not enhancing the property. So, you know, we're looking for a positive outcome for our community. So that's the course the neighborhood believes would be best. So I appreciate your attention.
Thank you. As customary, we do not respond to anyone who addresses the board, so it's not within rules. Our policy is not to respond until later.
I understand.
Thank you.
Sure.
This time, we got that. Will someone else sign it to
I signed that. I don't know.
I don't have it, understand?
I signed it. I might have signed the wrong paper.
I have one non-agenda here, but that'd be later on in the program. Were you on the agenda item?
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead.
Okay.
We'll get you filled format later. 3 minutes.
I won't be long-winded, I promise. My name is Angie Stanley. I live at 200 Regency Drive, Colonial Heights. First of all, I want to say thank you all. It has been such an honor to serve with each and every one of you all for the last 4 and 8 years, especially me being the chairman of the Education Committee. I've really enjoyed serving with each and every one of you all. This will be my last meeting, September 1st. Hopefully, our new county commissioner will be joining, and hopefully, you all can work with him as well as we work together. I'm speaking today for my community. That's what I was elected to do, was to be a voice for them when they could not be here. And my community has asked for you all to ask respectfully for you all to lift the restrictions off of the deed for the school, and to either accept the $2 million bid if you can legally, and if you can't, then put it out for bid. We just seen the $1 million of renovation that we need to do to our existing schools. That $2 million could come in handy right now. We've got some elementary schools that don't even have a kitchen in it, and they have to bring the food over to the elementary school by bus or van. And it's been like that for years. But our kids deserve better than that here in this county. They deserve to have hot food. And my concern with some of that is, if we're at a lockdown and the kids can't go out to lunch, or no one can bring that in, that would be a concern of mine too, with kids not being able to get their lunch and stuff, like at Sullivan and at Rock Springs. So I just hope that you all, I know in your shoes, I know it's tough to make these decisions, and I hope that y'all will make the best decision for my community and for the Sullivan County school system. Thank you again for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Jones, and welcome to everyone. It's good to see people when we have our those that are interested in our school district attend our school board meetings. So thank you very much. My communications to the board this evening consist of it's that time of year when we make parents and families smile, and some students smile for the most part. But we welcomed our staff back to school this past Monday. We've had a great week, lots of professional development going on in all subject areas from pre-K through our high schools. Our biggest event occurs Monday when we welcome our students back. It doesn't seem like it's been that long. This has been quite a short summer. We enjoyed having them in Summer Quest as well as summer school, and to be perfectly honest, they enjoyed being with us. We're excited for our students. We're always excited for them to come back because they need us, and we want to be there for them in every capacity. So that happens Monday. Now, along with that, on Monday comes much traffic congestion. And I just want to put out there that, the first week, 2 weeks of school, when we have lots of cars on our campuses with parent drop-offs, student drivers, I ask for people's patience. There will be long lines, and that's just the way it's going to be for a little while until we get things organized, people get to know the routines. But we're going to have some busy roads come Monday morning. I ask that everyone keep our students, our school families in your thoughts moving forward, and ask for our safety, their safety, and also ask for us to have an amazing school year. Additionally, just a few things. Of course, school is closed Monday, September 5th for Labor Day. And then on September 12th is our parent-teacher conference day. So I mentioned both of those dates, not knowing exactly when our board will be coming back together again. But I do respectfully request, Chairman Jones, during your comments or at some point during the meeting, that we do look at a work session in the very near future to spend time on the projects that Ms. West discussed with you all tonight. And so I can get some feedback to see which direction we want to move forward. But that is all I have. I just want to say one more time, we're excited for Monday. And we're excited to get our kids back. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Next on our list is unfinished business.
Unfinished business. Item 6A is facilities. On that facilities line, we have two items. One, and first being Colonial Heights Middle School property, and the second being the Sullivan East High School turf. So, Mr. Chairman Jones, item 6A is Colonial Heights property.
I'm going to make a recommendation here, motion, and I would ask for someone to second, and I'll give it to you in writing. This is a little bit different than normal as far as putting it in writing before we actually vote on something, but I think it's very crucial that we understand the details of what we're talking about. I make a motion that Colonial Heights Middle School property be declared surplus, and that all restrictions other than those in the original deed be removed, and that the property be sold by internet auction to the highest bidder above a minimum bid of $2 million. And I'd entertain a second on that motion, and then I'll give you the written documentation.
I'll second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second. At this time, the floor will be open for discussion. Each board member will take a copy of the motion. It has some additional notes there, and I'd like to summarize those notes for you.
I miscounted.
Okay. You couldn't count four.
Well, I understood math wouldn't be part of this job.
Chairman Jones, well, I guess I'll let you explain first. I've got a motion to amend. I'll let you explain first.
That's why I wanted to put it in writing, just in case I
Understand.
I have talked with several attorneys this week concerning the legal procedures for selling surplus property, and as many attorneys as I've talked to, there have probably been that many opinions as to how you go about actually doing this. Mr. Cole and I have talked and emailed back and forth on some things, in addition to the other attorneys that we have been corresponding with. But basically, we've got to follow the state law when it comes to declaring property surplus. Before we can do anything, we have to declare that it is surplus. And then once it's declared surplus, we have a couple of options as to how we can sell the property. There's two laws that we end up dealing with, 49-6-2006, and I think 49-6-2007. question about one of them is whether or not it deals just simply with vocational expenditures or whether it deals with any type of expenditure. The way the law was written originally several years ago, I think back in the late 70s, maybe early 80s, if you had vocational money that had been spent to build houses, you could to actually negotiate the sale of that property to an individual if you could get the best price for it. But most of the time, the best way of doing that, according to the law and according to the lawyers, all of them agreed on this, was to do an open sale, either an internet auction or a public auction. They did say that you could use sealed bids to do this. If we use sealed bids, then each person's putting in the best price that they have, and they don't know what the other one is doing. If you do the public auction or if you do an internet auction, then at that time, the other person knows what the prices are, and there can be no questions of whether or not it was a backdoor deal. If we do the internet auction to the highest bidder and set the minimum at $2 million, then everybody knows what we're dealing with. I have talked with officials from Kingsport, I have talked with Dr. Brown, and I have talked with some developers who have expressed an interest in the property. Those are the three divisions that have called me and dealt with me on this. And after talking with them and talking with the attorneys, I wrote this motion out for us to discuss. So at this time, the floor is open for that discussion.
Mr. Jones, I have a motion to amend.
Okay?
I'd like to amend the part about where it says property to be sold. Instead of buying internet auction to the highest bidder, I'd like to put to Lakeway Christian Academy for the offered price of $2 million. And if I can get a second, I'll explain.
I found this on the web.
Further, Mr. Iverson's,
Is the question appropriate before we get to section, or do we actually
Go ahead, sir.
I think you're going to get a second before you can ask for any comments on it.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second. Let's talk about it.
Okay? Motion has been made by Mr. Iverson and seconded by Mr. Price that we change that to where it says be sold to Lakeway Christian Academy. We have to have a roll call vote.
I'd like to talk about it first, because I have to have a chance to talk
Okay.
before we go to vote.
Go ahead.
After discussions with other lawyers, as you're saying now too, we get a lot of different opinions, but at the same time, most of them have agreed, and if you look here on the procedures that you actually have on 2B, the board may sell the property through a negotiated sale, in which case the majority of the board members must first determine the negotiated sale realize the best price obtainable for the property. The price that they've offered is well above market value, it's well above appraised value. It's exactly what my community wants. That is my community. I represent that area. I've had tons of people come, the ones that have spoken to us today. A lot of calls, a lot of texts, and a lot of meetings have gone on about this. And that is, in my opinion, and for my area, the best for my area. I think it's very fair. I think what they've offered is fair. And I think that it makes more sense for us to do this than to actually sell it through any other system that's going to take a portion or a percentage or anything else that may happen, and we get an absolute number. So that's my opinion, and that's why I made the motion.
I guess in response to that, in quotes, a negotiated sale would realize the best price obtainable for any property. And that's where we would probably disagree. I'm not promoting one over another, but we do not know what the best price is. We know what Dr. Brown has offered through his organization. And, other comments?
Yeah, it is legal for us to directly negotiate with either the county or the city, is that correct?
It's according to what the attorneys have told me, it's legal for us to negotiate with the county or with the cities. In this case, it would be Kingsport or Bristol. Bristol has no interest in this particular building. And the question then becomes, is it legal to negotiate with an individual group? And if the board voted to negotiate, then you've got to advertise for 30 days in the local newspaper according to what the law says. You advertise in 30 days of who you are negotiating with, and if that then is determined to be the best price, you move forward with that. The real question there is there a better price than the $2 million to any of the ones that contacted me? And as you all know, I was one of the ones who would like to have had a restriction there that kept it from being a school. I have been convinced otherwise just by listening to the community and listening to the people who expressed an interest that it does need to be open. The restrictions that were listed originally, which either residential or as a school, but in all good conscience, I have to know what other people are willing to pay before I would be willing to say that's the best deal.
And I completely understand what you're saying, Chairman Jones, as far as that. I think a lot of this has to do with what's best for the community and what's best for the area also. We have a long-standing agreement because in 2003, the county commission actually did the same Lane View School with Tri-City Christian Schools, actually. They entered into a negotiation with them and leased the property to them, and later on gave the property to them for $1. Then they gave the ball fields to the city of Kingsport for $1. Actually, for $0 price for Tri-City Christian, it was $1 for the city of Kingsport. So I don't think this is really stepping outside of what's happened before. The county commission actually used to take care of the properties for us until around 2015, and now we take care of our own. And I'm not saying to reinvent the wheel. I'm not saying to do something that's unjust, but we have to do what's best for our communities. We have to do what's best for our citizens, and the citizens that live around it, and the community that is involved with it, and the community that will be impacted by it, would be served best, in my humble opinion, by having a Tri-City Christian School there. But that's, again, I'll repeat that.
Other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I would support this amendment, quite possibly, but I don't know how I could do it not knowing if it's legal. And in my mind, from what I've read, there's a huge question as to whether it is legal. And my question would be, what if it's not? What if we found out? I mean, the other way we know we're legal. What would happen? What are the possibilities if we were to find out that we were doing something wasn't legal?
The advice that I was given that in order to be transparent, it is best to do a sale of where everyone has an equal opportunity, either through the internet sale or the public auction. And I wasn't aware of the internet sale until I did talk with another attorney. And he said that's what many of them were going with, was doing the internet sale where everybody had a fair chance. And if we did a bid tonight, we don't know who would offer the most. I don't have a clue if there's anybody in the audience other than Dr. Brown who has put forth a bid. And that's why it does say a minimum bid, because he has said in his letter to us, each of us, I think that's a copy of it. I know I sent a copy to everyone that says that purchase it as is for the price of $2 million. And,
One more final comment.
okay.
A county commissioner had approached me earlier and told me that they had talked to a different attorney or our county attorney. So that's when I asked Mr. Hull to reach out and talk to him, and then we all got his response. But his response does not say that it's not legal. He might say it's a better way of doing it, there might be challenges or other things, but unless I'm misreading that, he did not say that it's not legal. He did say that we can do it, but there may be a better way of doing it. I'm not putting words in his mouth, I'd like to get his opinion.
Well, it's summarizing all of that. My advice, and I guess, my opinion has always been that we sell by competitive bidding. I think there is the potential of challenge by someone who's excluded from the process that it was discriminatory, and I think Mr. Street agrees that that's a possibility. But yes, I think selling it directly, particularly under the circumstances that are outlined here in Mr. Jones' motion, is something the board can do. I guess here's my analogy, okay? We can hire people, so the board could just vote to hire somebody's next door neighbor. But my recommendation would be that we go through a process that eliminated any discrimination and gave everybody the transparent opportunity to participate. So I think we could ultimately get into a challenge, and I would just say avoid that. And I think the procedure that Mr. Jones sets out here does that, and would. But yes, I think also under here it would say if the board chose to, it's not just outright illegal to go ahead and sell it by that negotiated sale. So, and I call on the history of things, and you did point out the county transaction there with Linview,
Yes.
which I don't recall all that because we didn't do that, but I think our history has been to do it by competitive bidding, or we've taken bids through a realtor that we solicited bidding. So I guess we established a procedure that I think is reasonable to advise to follow.
Well, and thank you very much for that. I really appreciate the input. But that being said, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to just reissue that as far as have a vote on that, because I think it's legal, I think it's fair, I think it's above market value, and I think it's something we could move forward to. And as I was pointed out to last week, having these things kick the can down the road over and over and over, we have a very fair, very good offer for a piece of property that's going to be wonderful for that community. They've asked for it. I think that they would like it, and I'd like to let them have it. And that way we sit here and exchange a piece of property for money, and we can move forward, and they can too.
Any other comments from any other board members?
Yes, sir, I have one more from Mr. Hull. The fact that we have established a practice, does that put us any more or any less at peril if someone was to take issue with what we did?
Well, there again, yes, if someone took issue, I think the fact that we've had an established practice that we deviated from would support that kind of challenge. But there again, that's certainly something that I could tell you that's a particular percentage or whatever. I think it is just a possibility that, I guess as your attorney, I usually advise you to avoid those kind of possibilities. But yeah, I think that would factor into it in some way.
Any other comments from board members? We're ready for a roll call. We're voting on the amendment to the motion that we have here, and the amendment is to proceed with the negotiated sale with Lakeway Christian Academy.
Yes.
Is that right?
Accept the offer.
Well, we can't accept the offer because in order to do a negotiated sale, you have to vote, do that first. And so you are asking to amend the motion that we have out there to go with a negotiated offer. And if that happens, then we come back with another motion then according to the...
I can see what you're saying, but the negotiation is they offer, we say yes, that's a negotiation, but I understand what you're saying. That's fine.
Okay. Roll call, Ms. King?
Mr. Iverson?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
No.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Dr. Rouse?
No.
Mr. Spivey?
No.
Mr. Hughes?
No.
The amendment fails 4-3, so we're back to the original motion that's on the table, which is a motion that Colonial Heights school property be declared surplus, and that all restrictions other than those in the original deed be removed, and that the property would be sold by internet auction to the highest bidder above the minimum bid of $2 million. Any comments or questions before we go to a roll call on that?
So we're gonna send this out as the highest bid wins, right? There's no, we can say no to the highest bidder if we don't like who's coming in, right?
Well, I think if it's the highest bidder wins, you'll be asking for a lawsuit if you turn down any bidder, in my opinion. I'm not an attorney, but if we advertise it that the highest bidder wins, then the highest bidder gets the property.
I think we may want to reconsider that, because we don't want somebody else coming in our back door. I can go for late, but we let the city move in right there, we're gonna lose a lot of kids.
Yes. Lose more in 1 year than the whole place.
Am I remembering wrong? I thought in the past we always reserved the right to reject the bid.
What was that?
Yeah.
We'll have the same
We
percentage.
generally have, and there again, my memory is not always perfect, but I think we generally have done that.
It seems like it would be the exact same argument we had a few minutes ago. If we do something out of procedure, we're inviting a lawsuit. So, I mean, if we don't take the highest bidder, then there you go.
The difference would be on your sealed bids that you've done in the past, which you were making reference to. In your sealed bids, they have proposed what they want to buy the property for and what they want to do with it. In this particular case, the property is restricted to either residential or the schools. So anyone who bids on it is going to have to be used for one of those two properties. And I think you'll be asking for discrimination lawsuit if you turn down someone because of who they are or who they work for. And
Which is exactly the reason I tried to do what I just did.
I understand.
I think Mr. Robinson makes a really good point. You know, I'm not saying that it would be a city school or something, but there could be a prison or lots of things that could make that highest bid.
No, it cannot be anything other than a school or residential because it's restricted. The original deed back in the 1950s
Which any judge can change.
Runs with the-
runs with the
Second
land.
eight.
Which any judge can change.
Pardon?
Any judge can change. Any judge can change.
Well, I am going to disagree with you there.
Okay.
I mean, number one, it certainly isn't the case that any judge
Well,
will change.
But a judge can change.
But I think it is not likely that one would. I mean, I don't think that's just something like,
Michael, this is my backyard, man.
you go ask
You can
the
reconsider.
judge and they change it. I will say, for better or worse, it is my recollection that we have generally put in there that we reserve the right to reject all bids. And I think it is for that reason. Now, this is a different situation because of these restrictions.
And you have placed a minimum bid, which we've never done before in the past. If you're going to reject someone in public tonight, say who you would reject. I'm not talking about the names.
I'll ask you a question. I'm absolutely not anti-city Kingsport. I was born and raised in Kingsport. I went to Kingsport City Schools. But I will ask a question. If the city were to come in and take Colonial Heights Middle School, and they take 200 of our kids to that school, does that not make $2 million a year go away from our budget every single year from that point on?
If you recall, Mr. Iverson, that was the reason I wanted to put a restriction in that could be used as a school, because looking ahead to the future, you could lose money with anyone coming in. But again, as I have talked to community members and as I've talked to other people, they said, you can't look to the future expecting to, because you're afraid of losing money.
I'm not afraid of losing money, because I know exactly who I'd like to go in there. And we might lose kids and we may lose money, but it's a much better option.
But the difference is, I don't have a preference of who goes in at this time. I just want to make sure we're open and transparent of how we go about selling it. I'm more concerned with that than I am who actually wins the bid on it. And I don't know if there'll be one bid. I know there'll be one. I've talked with Dr. Brown, so unless he changes his mind tonight, I know he has a bid. Will there be others? We've got people from Kingsport here. Are they going to be it? I don't know. Will the developer call me and talk to me? Will they be it? I do not know.
I've got a question. With your motion, I mean, what are the terms and who would be advertising this? Because do we want to make it a minimum bid of $2 million and it has to be a certain time period to close? I mean, we can condition that on all kinds of things. People can make bids, but then they might want to finance, it might take a lot longer. I don't know if we want to get into all of that, but that can make a big difference.
We have to go through the purchasing agent, my understanding, before we can actually sell the property anytime. So we would have to put in there what's the terms, would that be closed in 30 days? And I'm assuming no matter who we sell to, they're going to be able to close it in 30 days or 45 days or whatever you wanted. The big thing tonight is to decide whether or not we are going to sell it. If we don't sell, then we're back to square one, and we tear the building down. And I'm personally in favor of that, but that's one vote.
Last chance to reconsider.
To that
So,
point,
Mr. Hull, is it legal, in your opinion, or illegal for us to put, to say that we have the right to refuse the highest bid, in your opinion, based on?
I think that is legal.
You think it's legal that we have, do you think it's illegal if we don't? Or legal if we don't? If we was to say,
I think we can do it either way.
you think either way is what about Section 8 housing? Would that fall under?
It's the only way that they can go up.
It says 1,500 square foot.
Well, yes, I mean, I think it is residential.
It's residential, but I would call your attention to the fact that the property is located in the city of Kingsport, and that it would have to be zoned by them and permits.
We have no say-so.
The city of Kingsport. That question.
Which we have no control.
No, I know, I'm just calling that to your attention.
We know.
one thing to clarify, I'm not trying to pick on Mr. Arson, but nobody said it. The section you're relying on clearly states that it's talking about property upon which a building under its career and technical education program is built. So there's a big question about whether the section that we spent 20 minutes talking about and that you keep bringing back up to sell would even apply when you read the statute.
And I can give you some, since I'm old, I can give you some history on that one. When that statute was put in back in, I think in 1974, 75, most school systems were building houses under the vocational program, and they were selling those. And there had to be a way of actually selling the property. We had some buildings in Bristol. Kingsport, or Sullivan County, actually owned land out of Fall Creek West subdivision back in 1978, 1980 rather. And they bought the lots to build their houses on, and they were going to sell the houses. Bristol did the same thing, so the law was put in effect to have a way to sell them without actually going out and bidding, because they could actually sell to an individual and get the best price. And that's why it says negotiated price.
And not to date you, but the statute goes all the way, the statute goes all the way back to 1955. It was amended in 1970, 1974, all the way up to 2015. So, and they haven't changed that, is my point. As a lawyer, to me, I don't think it is clear at all that we could even properly do what you proposed legally, Mr. Arce. So I just want to point that out because it's not near as clear cut if you take a second to actually read the paragraph.
I appreciate your information, Mr. Spivey, but like Mr. Jones said, several lawyers have disagreed with what you just said. So, I mean, that doesn't make one person right and one person wrong, but we do have lawyers saying it's legal.
None that are employed by our board.
He-
I
he
mean, we
clearly
can all
said it
go,
was.
we can all go talk to Mr., I think the lawyer from Mr. Arson. The good thing is I have a vote.
Well, Mr. Holt clearly said it was. His just opinion was that you should not maybe be, but it's his opinion. It is illegal. It is legal. So, I mean, no matter what you want to say, I'm not bringing up someone we don't employ.
Have we ever run a career and technical educational program on that property?
No.
Okay.
And that's the same argument I used with the attorney I talked with, because we were debating both sides of it. And I told him that I think we could use the one that you just referred to because it was not career tech. And I have additional correspondence from these attorneys, and we do have to pay them, by the way. If what it says still the same thing, with one of two options, and that's in that sale auction or sealed bids.
Well,
That's what
I think if you go back to 203B10, it says that you have the power to sell property in accordance with the other two statutes.
Sure.
2006. So I suppose the argument is that that reference includes anything that's in there.
Right, but
There are lawyers that come down on both sides of that question that you're raising, and I raised the same one.
Well, that's what I mean in the sense of what advice we've got by who we're actually employing.
Again, I'm looking for the transparency of it, and I guess this point, the best thing to do is to have a call for a vote, and we are voting on declaring the property surplus, removing all restrictions, and that includes the restrictions that we placed back earlier this year, except those in the original deed, and that the property be sold by internet auction to the highest bidder above the minimum price of $2 million. That's the motion we're voting on at this time. Roll call, Mr. King. Roll call, sorry, Mr. Biden.
I think Mr. Robbins might ask the same question. I just wanted to clarify whether the terms of that would be to the highest bidder without the ability to reject an offer. I just want to clarify.
Well, let me also point out, if you put that clause in there, you don't have to reject it.
Sure.
So if you're concerned about that later on, you can just accept it.
Right.
But that does, as Mr. Robinson pointed out, it gives you that.
Yeah, I just didn't know what we were voting on because the way it's
And I-
stated, we don't have that room.
That's a good point.
Are you looking to make an amendment then?
I mean, I think it might be wise to. I mean, we don't have to exercise it, but under the current motion, it could be purchased by anyone. You say use, they could just let it sit there.
So it would be, make a motion that Colonial Heights property be declared surplus, that all restrictions other than those in the original deed be removed, that the property be sold by internet auction to the highest bidder above a minimum bid of $2 million, with the right of the Sullivan County Department of Education to reject any and all bids.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna reread this, see if it fits, that's for Mr. Biden. I make a motion that Colonial Heights school property be declared surplus, that all restrictions other than those in the original deed be removed, and that the property be sold by internet auction to the highest bidder above a minimum bid of $2 million, with the right of Sullivan County Department of Education to reject any or all bids.
Should you put Board of Education or Department of Education?
I would prefer to put board.
I just did it because it was easy to put SCDE. So that's the Sullivan County DOE to reject any or all bids. I said any or, we we'll make it any and.
I think you,
I think or.
it means the same thing either
I'm
one.
going to leave it or. With the right of the Sullivan County Board of Education to reject any or all bids. And my only concern is, why would you reject any bid above $2 billion? Now, that's a rhetorical question, I guess, but, so that would be that if this passes and it went through the offer, we'd have to come back to the board to accept. Right? Okay, I need a second on Mr. Spivey's amendment.
I'll second that.
Have a motion with Mr. Spivey and a second by Mr. Hughes.
Mr. Jones, actually, if you accept it, you can as a sponsor. You don't have to go through a roll call. You can accept the amendment.
I'd rather go through the roll call, only on record. Any other questions on that?
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Dr. Rouse?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Iverson?
Yes.
Now, we have the amended version, and we're ready to vote again. We'll see if we get the same number of votes. Roll call on the amendment now. Ms. King?
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Dr. Rouse?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Iverson?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes. Now, with the action just taken by the board then, the Colonial Heights Middle School property has been declared surplus. All restrictions other than those in the original deed have been removed. A sale will be made by internet auction to the highest bidder above a minimum bid of $2 million, and the board retains the right to reject any or all bids. I do know that the purchasing agent out of the office this week, and it will be probably next week before we were able to go to them then with the details of what we need. And I believe, according to all the information I have, we have to advertise for at least 7 days when the bid's going to be. And I'm not sure exactly who will be doing the internet auction. It can be done by our people, or it can be done by organizations. And we have at least one person in this room who has some experience in that. Is that not right, Mr. Loach? Or at least that's knowledgeable of how it's done. But we will have this turned over to our purchasing agent to proceed then with the details of this. Back to you, Mr. Iverson.
Thank you, Chairman Jones. The next item on our agenda is item 6B, under unfinished business, Sullivan East High School turf. This has been something that has been discussed by our board, and Mr. Hughes has asked for this to be on our agenda this evening, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Hughes at this time.
Mr. Chairman and Mr. Director, I would like to make a recommendation, and I will read it. I would like to make the following recommendation this evening in regard to the turf project at Sullivan East High School. I recommend that we approve the project as submitted without the alternate with the following condition. Any monies needed to complete the fund account to the project, any monies needed to complete the fund account to the project bid of $596,366 be deposited in the designated existing account for the turf project by August the 30th, 2022. The existing bid from the baseline will expire September the 1st, 2022. The current account balance is $433,990.05. Principal Andy Hare has indicated that he has an additional $101,500 that has been promised upon the board's approval of the project, leaving a balance of $60,875.95 needed to complete the amount needed to fund the project promised as $101,500, which is also collected. I'll make that in a motion.
Could you please give me those numbers one more time? I didn't write down.
I'll just give it to you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to the grand total.
You've heard the motion from Mr. Hughes. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Second from Dr. Rouse. Any questions?
So there's nothing coming out of our funds. It's all coming.
No, the reason we're doing this is because I think there's some people that are hesitant to make contributions, not knowing whether we're going to approve it or not. So this is so if those folks out there that want to make a donation, they can feel confident that the project is going to happen. It's just a matter of getting the money instead of us approving it after the fact.
But there's no money coming out of the school system. All money will be donations.
And it has to be put in that existing account by that date. Because it's sort of under the gun, because that bid is only good till September the 1st, and I think it was either $76,000 or $78,000 that it costs to do the work. And so we don't want to find ourselves in this position later on. If they got the money, you have to go back through that process, because the way prices are changing and things are going up, you don't have too much of a shelf life on prices.
And all monies have to be in that account by September 1st in order for us to proceed with the project. Is that correct?
They need to be in August the 30th, because the bids are only good until September 1st.
So, just want to make sure I'm clear on one thing. The part that's taken out of that is the grading, all the grading, that's not part of it either now, right?
No.
Okay, so grading is no longer a part of it.
That was always the alternate on the
Right.
bid.
So I just want to make sure that was the only thing.
They feel like they can do the project, and it won't affect the turf, and do that later.
There was two alternates.
Yes.
Both are gone.
Both alternates gone. For those who may not remember, there was an alternate that had something about to do with the logo, and it was 12,000 or something.
12,842.
12,842.
Any other questions? If not, roll call, Ms. King.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Dr. Rouse?
Yes.
Mr. Spivey?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Iverson?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is new business. Item 7A is ESSER projects. As I mentioned earlier, we had a presentation by architect Deneen West. I provided you with some additional information, and I would like to suggest that and request that we schedule a work session within the next 2 weeks to come back, ask Ms. West to come back, have additional discussion, and possibly even move into some decision-making at that time. And I will leave that to Chairman Jones during his comments to bring back up as far as the work session goes. Item 7B is Director of School Search, and I will yield to Chairman Jones.
Guess that means you're lost if we're searching for you.
That's relative.
this may take longer than the Colonial Heights discussion. There's several decisions we need to make tonight. Do we do a search ourselves, or do we contract with TSBA to complete a search for us? I guess instead of TSBA, we could use another organization, but TSBA would be the logical one. But I wanted to give you an example of what we have here. The first sheet you have is a sample timetable for a search. This is TSBA's timetable. I have talked with Tammy Grissom yesterday, after the second time. I talked with them, some of them at the law seminar, as to whether or not they can do the search. And she said, we can do the search if, they can do the search if we want them to, and they can have it completed by January the 1st, as I requested. But there's some things that we may want to do that they might not want to do, so we need to iron those out tonight, and if not tonight, then the very next time we get together as a work session to know whether or not to enter into a contract with them. On page 2 of what I gave you, there's 2 plans that TSBA has. First plan is $6,500. Second plan is $11,500. In plan 2, they will do everything that they've done in plan 1, plus some additional meetings in the community. I expressed to her an interest in plan 1 only at a cost of $6,500. Then, if you go to page 3 of the handout that I gave you, and Rick, I'll give you a copy of this so you won't take too many notes. On page 3 is the sequence of events that has to happen. Number 1 is tonight, choosing a consultant. We make a decision whether or not we choose a consultant. The benefit of using TSBA or another organization is that they collect all of the applications of people who have expressed an interest in being our director of schools. We will put together a brochure, they advertise it, they collect the applications. I did verify with them that once someone makes an application, that is a public record. No one can apply for a position and say, keep my name secret. Once the application goes to them, it becomes a public record. They screen the candidates, and basically when they screen a candidate, it's not a background check, it's just a paper credential screening that they do. And then we come to the choice. Normally they choose candidates who meet the criteria that we have specified, and they give us a list of those candidates, and we do a public interview. But keep in mind that the board's the only one who can do the public interview. But the spreadsheet or the flow sheet that I have given you tonight shows that the board actually selects the ones they want to interview. You notice the handwritten scribbling at the bottom, that's mine. If we stop with this TSBA where it says present the candidates, that's what they would do. They would present the ones they think would meet our criteria. The last time we did this, we said we wanted to make sure we had paper screened those that met the qualifications. And it's important that you remember that, because if you go to page 4, actually I want to take you to page 5 first, where it says Director of Schools Recruitment and Selection. Lines 22 and 23, this is board policy. Only candidates who receive 4 out of 7 member votes will be interviewed by the board in an open session. Now, this policy was put in place in 2019, February 2019. And in order to be interviewed, this board had to screen the candidates. And if you didn't get 4 votes, you didn't get an interview. Now go to the other board policy that says qualifications and duties of the director of schools. Across the top under qualifications, a professional educator's license, a master's degree in education with a preference for a doctorate, 10 years of successful experience in school administration, such other qualifications as the board deems necessary or desirable. This was approved in February the 7th, 2019. If that's what's in the policy now, if there's something that you want changed under qualifications, then we need to probably vote on that tonight, so we can start working on the brochures and so forth. Now, I know I've thrown a lot of things out there.
Can we possibly just have the discussion, read over this, and since we're having a meeting in 2 weeks to discuss ESSER funds, put this on that agenda also? I mean, because I don't think any of us have a chance to know enough to ask questions and make amendments and vote on this tonight.
That's exactly about 2 weeks ago. I said, please become prepared to talk about draft research.
But you gave us stuff we didn't have.
It's in our board policy. But if we want to do a call meeting in 2 weeks, we can do that and make it, instead of this work session, make it a call meeting.
That's my preference. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's my preference.
Now, keep in mind, these 2 board policies that we have, if there's something you want to change, we'll have to vote on those changes. Under the recruitment and under the qualifications.
Chairman Jones?
Yes.
I have a question.
Okay.
On the timeline, you talked about TSBA would present candidates in January?
No, they'll have them before, we do interviews prior to January.
Okay.
Well,
I
I told them our goal is to have somebody hired by January 1st.
That was what I was going to.
That's what you mentioned last board meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I know you say you looked at this. Do you have a recommendation that you favor something to kind of debate from there?
Well, my recommendation is to go with Plan 1 with TSBA, but that we don't give up control of the paper applications. In other words, that's why I wrote those things at the bottom. And when I talked with Tammy Grissom, she was a little bit hesitant to but she wanted to give us a list of finalists for us to interview. And I maintain that we want to see every application that is qualified after they go through and screen them, not just necessarily the ones they pick. And she said that they can do that, I think. Matter of fact, she said they'd be glad to come up and talk, but I wanted us to be together before we actually talk with them about any parts of it. But to me, it's important that we know who all has applied. It's important to look at those paper credentials. And we know that you don't just look at paper credentials, but you read what they've done, then you call people who they didn't put down and check their references so that you have both sides of the story. But I think the good thing about TSBA is they have a good network of getting the names out, of doing the search, and it's probably $6,500 that's fairly well spent by doing it that way. And TSBA does do our board policy, so they know pretty much what we have in it.
So, in the interview process, would that go something like this? They would bring each board member individually to candidates and let them, or how would we choose, how would the 4 people, how would you make it 4 votes?
The way we did the 4 votes the last time, we set a room upstairs and had all the applications there, and we set up a day where board members could come in and review the paper credentials And anybody that you wanted to interview, you could actually put their name down, and anyone who got 4 votes would be called for an interview. And that took all the, as much as possible, the politics out of it, and it allowed people to look at what was out on paper. And that's a process that does work. Now, if you recall, last time I think we did interview with the consultant individually, talk with him. That's not necessary. They can come to this group and talk with us. And I've been through this with TSBA probably 4 times, and it goes different each time, but,
Another question.
okay?
The interview process itself, last time it was a little more scripted and, is this the same process, or it says in the policy the board gets a chance to question? How will that be different this time, or will it be different?
The key there, you've got to ask the same questions of each candidate. We do not have to have scripted questions, but it's important that each of you, if you decide what questions you're going to ask one, you've got to ask all the other candidates the same questions to be fair to each candidate. TSBA, if you've got followed through on their procedures, they'll hand you a list of questions and say, here are your questions, you can ask them. But if we do it our way, we would do our own questions, and I have a set of questions that I asked in 2015 when Mr. Alfowski's name was correct. I've still got my questions listed there with answers. But by doing it yourself, you're able to customize your questions to your community.
Chairman Jones, I do think it's important that we have scripted questions that can be our own customized scripted.
Yes.
But by the time you get to the 3rd person, you want to make sure that you do remember exactly how you worded the question for candidate number 3 as you did candidate number 1.
Okay.
So customized, but scripted but customized.
I agree totally. And it has to be a public interview, which you can't do. I think there's been a few systems that's done things individually, or where, like Mark would go meet with the candidate, and the next day somebody else would meet with them. But that's not the way this is set up. This gives us a chance. This gives us a chance to hear the candidate's answers to Mark's questions, to your questions, and to each of us. And if it's the same questions, then we're able to compare notes. And there's nothing wrong with having second rounds of interviews if the first round doesn't bring up the candidate that we think is the front runner. 2 front runners. And again, this is all, we're trying to be transparent on this one up front.
Does TSBA run the meeting itself, or will you as chairman do it? The interviews?
We do our own. TSBA drops out of it once they give you the applications, they're out of it.
What was the Wayne? I'm trying to remember his name. Okay, Qualls. Is he still doing that? Okay. That was what we used last time.
We used him the last time. He was a little bit cheaper than TSBA. I still got his phone number here. And Pat, last time I think did some research on some other outside groups that it is.
I did.
I found my notes on that, and they rank a little bit higher than TSBA. The advantage of doing TSBA is they're all across the state, and they'll be up here, I think, September the 26th, I believe it is, for a fall conference.
I like Mr. Qualls, and I like that process, but having done it, I see some things we could change, even if it was him or whoever it is,
But do you want to try to find someone else other than TSBA, or is TSBA something that, I mean, if you want to vote on TSBA tonight, I'm sure she'll be contacting me in the next day or so to see what we decided. And if you don't want to vote on that part of it tonight,
I think it might be good to have that vote tonight if we can, just so we know where we're going in case you might need to arrange for her to come up to meet with us or something.
making that form of motion.
I will make that in the form of a motion, that we hire TSBA to do our director of school search.
That's plan one, right?
Plan one.
Still down for.
Plan one.
Dr. Rouse makes a motion then that we contract the TSBA to do superintendent search, plan one, at $6,500. We have a second. Have a second for Mr. Price. Any questions for discussion? Roll call, Ms. King.
I'd still like to and I want to get this done as quick as possibly can, but I'd still like to look to make sure, because it seems like, I mean, there's handwritten stuff on here, there's different notes and stuff. I just want to make sure we're not conflicting with what we're doing. I mean, this is very important.
No, all we're voting on right now, on the motion, is to engage them in plan one.
But that's the whole thing, right? I mean, if we say TSBA plan one, then we're done. We go forward and they start working, they start doing. I mean, I'm not even sure if what they're doing in plan one actually corresponds with our two policies.
They don't start doing anything until we do the official announcement then, which is on them. But
That's in my opinion. I think we need to look it over before we
That's
actually
what
make
Mark's trying to
that
ask, maybe is, if we go ahead with plan one, do we want, is there any tweaking or anything that can happen after we have the vote tonight? Is that kind of?
Yeah, I mean, because even you said it, and what you told them we wanted was different than what their plan one is. So are we taking what their plan one is, or your altered plan one? And if it's altered, what is the altered?
we'll be taking whatever we need to. All we're doing is committing to $6,500 to do the search. And it says, schedule interview date with finalists, conduct checks and credentials, those type of things.
I understand what you're saying. I just would like to actually have something in front of me that says exactly what we're getting them to do, because it sounds like we're getting an altered plan one, and I'm not exactly sure what that is. And I'd like to see how the altered plan one matches up with our policy before we vote. But I just don't think we're ready to vote. We don't have all the information in front of us. So proceed. I'll just abstain with that. I'm not going to do it.
Another question.
Well, I just want to clarify, I mean, the motion is solely to hire, to approve $6,500 for TSBA. And obviously, we would have to set out the parameters, and if we wanted to modify our policies, we can do that, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, I think that information is pretty clear. I get where you're coming from, Mr. Iverson, but we would still have to engage them and set out the parameters and qualifications.
I just by going with what was the motion. The motion says we're going to accept TSBA plan number one. And that's different than what you said, because you said there's parts of plan that you want them to do or differently, and that's not plan one. So I'm just trying to figure out exactly what we're saying we're doing.
I'd have to make the motion then to engage TSBA with plan one, with modifications to be determined at a future time. With that? You okay with that amendment?
I'm perfect with that.
Okay. Roll call, Ms. King.
Dr. Rice.
Yes.
Mr. Spivey.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Iverson.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
That passed unanimously. Next, we are ready for public comments on agenda items. Lisa Lyons.
Good evening. Thank you for having us out tonight. Some of you may be familiar with Kids Like Us, and to others, we're very new to the community. We are currently a licensed early learning center, adult day services, and after-school program through the state of Tennessee. But we are also a nonprofit and have been since 2017. We're currently located in the Impact Community Center at Holston Valley Middle School. We partnered with them to be able to bring these services to the community. There was a great need for all of these services out there for families for multiple reasons. The Early Learning Center's purpose is not just to be able just to bring kids in to make money. That is not what KOU is about. KOU is about helping the families and supporting them as a whole. We're creating jobs in the community. We are bringing services that normally would not be available after school services. So what I'm here for tonight is to ask to partner with the school system. We would like the school system to help us get the kids to the after-school program and to the adult day services program. What that would do would be allow some of our families to be able to go to work that have not been able to work due to lack of child care and the long waiting list within the whole area of the Tri-Cities, not just Sullivan County. The adult day services is a tremendous area where there are no services available to these adults that take extra time, one-on-one care, and provide special services to them as they have different needs than your traditional children. And KOU can meet that need. If I've done my research right, there are 4 buses that currently drive by Holston Valley Middle School in that general area. So we're not asking for a special bus to come out there. We're just asking that the kids be allowed to ride the bus and we become a drop-off for that community out there. In addition to that, we can also offer services back to the school system for field trips for all of the kids there at the school. If you've not been out there, we have created something really special. We're not just your traditional daycare. That is not what we are. We are a learning center. Right now, we've been open 6 weeks officially, and we have 14 enrolled in early learning within the last 2 weeks and met the needs of those parents. I have employed 9 people since then and continue as we bring more kids in to hire additional services there. We also, for the school system, are support because we get those early diagnoses with special needs kids. We have 3 right now, aged between 3 and 4, that was just diagnosed with autism. Those families need our support. They need your support because that diagnosis is really scary to families who don't know what to do or where to go for services, and KOU can assist with that. With that being said, we get services in early. We prepare these children and these families to come into the school system in just a few years later and offer that additional support. We have TEIS involved out there. We have PTOT and speech from different agencies. We're not there to recreate a wheel. We're there to partner with services that are already available within the community to make that family stronger and give them support that they need. We do take kids without a disability, and we had several this summer in the summer school program. We were late getting started. We were 2 weeks into school. By the time we got our license, school had already been out and families had made a lot of arrangements, but I know that that program is going to grow. We also had 10 enrolled in the after school program for Open Door, which is our adult services. We have one of our young men here tonight, Elijah, who has spent the summer with us, along with several other kids out of your school system. What we work with them there on is life skills, being able to live independently. We've took the modular out back there and we have turned it into an apartment where we teach life skills. We teach finances, laundry, cooking, independent living, self-help. We also, inside the school, have STEM, art, reading, full library, and we've created a real grocery store in there with the partnership of Food City. So they learn shopping skills, budgeting, healthy food habits. So we have a lot to bring to this community with KOU. So what we're here proposing tonight is that you help us support these families We have had a great need. I'm getting phone calls every day. School is starting. Are you going to be able to have kids dropped off at the school? We really need childcare after school so we can continue to work. I've got foster care areas in the area that's calling, that's taking in foster children in your community that desperately need services for those kids to have a place to go after school. So again, we're not asking for you to recreate your will. We're just asking for a partnership to be able to bus those kids to see us. And if you haven't been out to Kids Like Us, please take the time and come and see. I would love to show you around. I would love to share our vision with you and let you see what we have created, because we believe it to be something special. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman Jones, I'd just like to add, if I might, I would love for any of you all to just go out and visit, come out and visit. I've had the opportunity to visit twice, once about a year ago, and then once just a couple of weeks ago. And the things that have improved and changed over the year is amazing. And what they are doing there and what they're offering the community is absolutely amazing. So if you do get time and you can put that into your day today, please go out and just walk through. The grocery store looks real. I mean, I had to touch some of the fruit. It's not like that old plastic fruit that we used to see. I had to touch some of it. It looks so real. So they are doing wonderful things, and Lisa, thank you very much.
Chairman Jones, that concludes our agenda, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Let's take a look at possible meeting. You said 2 weeks. Is West available in 2 weeks, or what's your schedule?
I doubt that if we can give her probably a couple of dates, I think we can probably make it work.
Is she having her first 2 weeks? Take a look at your calendars for Thursday, August the 18th. Would that work for you? Mark? Here. 5 o'clock. And she might not be able to make that. 5 o'clock Thursday, August 18th, and that would be a call meeting for the purpose of solidifying the contract with the SBA and going over the director search process. If she can't do the 18th, would you let us know, and then we can see what other days would be available?
I've sent her a text.
Okay.
To see if she,
Our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, August 1st. I'm sorry, September 1st. I'm going backwards. Is that still good for everyone? 4:30 work session and 6:30 board meeting. And then Monday, September the 26th is our fall conference, and that's in Bristol at the New Tennessee Middle School. And I hope each of you are registered for that. This fall is going to be a busy fall for us, trying to do the director search, ESSER funds, and all the other things that we've got going on, so we may have to have some long meetings. At this time, board comments. Start with Mr. Iverson.
First, I'd like to say thanks to the members of my community who came out tonight to speak. Thank you guys for standing up, and thank you guys for the support that you gave. It's not going to be torn down, so that's a good thing. Tri-City Christian Academy, thank you guys. Thank you guys for coming out. Just want to say to our teachers, hope you had some rest because it's getting ready to get crazy really fast for you. So we support you guys, we love you, and know that you're having a really fun week this week, getting everything together, and the kids will be back next week, and I know that's going to be the best part of it, so that's about it.
I'll just echo Mr. Iverson's comments to teachers. Hope you have a great year. I know that we're there to support you. And as you always do, just continue being that positive influence in that child's life.
Mr. Hughes? Thank you. Mr. Chairman, tonight, with my time, I want to ask a couple of questions and ask for a little information, please. I have a question about the $399,325 that's being taken out of our budget by the Financial Management Committee as a result of them taking over our finances. This was in our 21-22 budget and physical services. Do we get an invoice for that? Anybody know? Do we get an invoice?
I have not seen an invoice.
So we're paying that money and we don't get an invoice?
I have not seen one.
Okay. The other question, does anybody that us pay? Any other department? Anybody know the answer to that? Are we still doing a lot of that working? Or any of it?
There's still a lot of financial work that is happening in this building.
So people can't hear you. You're saying that, yes, we're still doing a lot of things in this building.
That's right. There's still a lot of financial matters that happen in this building.
So we're paying $399,325. We don't get an invoice. We're still doing some of the work. There's lots of mistakes. Is that fair?
I would say so.
Okay. So what I want to ask you tonight, Mr. Chairman, is I'd like to formally request for an itemized report from Larry Bailey, Accounts and Budget Director, on how this money was taken and expended for 21-22 budget year. And I would also like to know how the money that was taken was spent during the that was going to be spent during the 22-23 year school year. So if somebody could convey that request to Mr. Bailey.
I'll be glad to relay that request.
Thank you. That's my remark.
And Doug is here as, I guess, a liaison between the county and us. And you'll work with Ingrid, I'm sure, to make sure that request is fulfilled. Right, Doug?
Yes, sir.
I don't have a lot, so just hope and pray for a good school year, all of our students, teachers and faculty all stay healthy and have a safe year and come out with one of the better years we've had in the last several, I hope. So.
Nothing to add other than to say I'm excited for another school year. We're thinking about the teachers and the kids because that's what this is really all about. At the end of the day.
I agree with what he said 100%. Look forward to this year. Can't wait to see what this year holds for us.
Before I turn it back over to Mr. Ramkowski, on the exam exemptions that Mr. Hare and Dr. Davis talked with you about tonight, if you have questions or suggestions, feel free to send those to them. How they could make it work, or your personal questions or objections to what it is. I think that would help them to put together a proposal for next month when we meet. And they might even have it ready on that September the 15th, August 18th, when we do our call meeting. If that would help.
As we conclude this evening, I did want to recognize the staff in this office. They have worked extremely hard preparing, planning, and organizing, and just pulling everything together to make our return to school successful. So I would ask the staff to please stand up and be recognized. They're all, this is a great staff, and it doesn't get any better. I certainly would not like to think I spend any time or a day in this office without this group of people. It doesn't matter what my request is, they're always there to do whatever. And that, it goes beyond this group. Our technology team was, and Charlie observed them today when we went out to Sullivan. They were out with brooms, cleaning and picking up stuff in the floors. I mean, it doesn't matter what the task is, they're ready to pitch in and make it happen. And we're all here for one purpose, and that's to ensure the success of our students that we're so excited to welcome back Monday. So I just personally want to recognize them and say thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Meeting adjourned.
Yeah.